We are pumped to get this guy on here. PHNX Cardinals, of course, Bo Brock, Johnny Venerable hanging out with you. Now with former NFL wide receiver, co-offensive coordinator, receivers coach out at the Ohio State University, Brian Hartline. Brian, thanks so much for taking time to join us.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys reaching out, making this happen. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, we have been yearning for a first-round Ohio State receiver for some time, since Bo and I have done this show. And for whatever reason, where the Cardinals have been picking just hasn't worked out, right? So by hook or by crook this year, they have the 4th overall pick, and Bo and I feel like probably what you do, they got the best overall player in this draft. Let's cut to the chase here. Marvin Harrison Jr., Arizona Cardinals. What's he bringing year one as a rookie to this franchise?
Well, I think you got a guy that's already a pro. I mean, he's been a pro at Ohio State. He's challenged guys around him to be a pro as well. So he's not a guy that's going to call out anybody probably in the locker room or in the receiver room, but he'll give plenty of opportunities for the coach to use him as an example of how to operate, how to study, how to execute a practice, and he's a total pro.
We're fortunate enough to talk to another total pro in Paris Johnson Jr. Last year was his rookie year, and he couldn't help himself from talking about his guy, Marvin Harrison Jr., potentially coming in the desert. But he said there were things that Marvin even did that separated himself from an NFL factory like Columbus. What did you see with your own eyes that kind of separates Marv from the rest of the pack?
Well, I think you kind of hit on it, right? I mean, it was really the lifestyle he lived. Like, football was not what he did; it is who he is, right? So, I mean, from outside the allotted time that we get to work with these guys, always caught him watching film, always see him on the jugs machine. Like, and a lot of people say that, and I have to say this, like, I'm saying like he's obsessed, and I think Kobe would talk about it like, if you're not really obsessed, like, are you really to that level? And Marv has been. He's probably the guy that's done it the most out of all the guys that have kind of come through this room over the last 3-4 years. And again, not minimizing the ones before, because frankly they did a great job too. But the level at which Marv has done it and the way he's lived is on a level on its own.
His legacy now, I think, to a lot of people, mirrors his dad's early career, Syracuse, and of course with Indianapolis. Like, what did you see from him, Coach, coming into a program with the namesake, right? The legacy that he had, his dad's, of course, an NFL Hall of Famer. Like, was he able to kind of play off of that in his own way? Certainly he's got a bunch of pros ahead of him on the depth chart, but how do you handle that pressure, I guess, is the best way to put it.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably easier for him because he was, he lived in it, so I didn't have that pressure. I didn't think about that pressure, frankly. I think I just saw Marv as Marv, and, I expected him to be the best version of himself, not anything to do with his dad. So that was always the focus. There were probably some early signs early on that there's a chance here this guy could be pretty darn special. At what point, you don't know. I think the biggest thing you guys probably feel, I know I always felt in the NFL, was the great ones. It always comes down to consistency. It's not the ability to do; it's the frequency at which dictates your level of greatness. So he was chasing that. I think he understood how important the consistency level was, and he lived it day in and day out.
We saw the unbelievable tape that he put on display while playing for you guys in Columbus the last couple of years that got him to New York as a Heisman finalist, Biletnikoff winner, 4th overall selection in the draft. And we talked to Cardinals offensive coordinator Drew Petzing, and he's like, yeah, Marv's going to define his role over the next couple months. You know this. You lived it as an NFL wide receiver. But where do you envision Marvin really thriving at the next level as far as, we think X wide receiver, the route trees he's going to run. What do you believe is his best kind of path forward?
Well, I'd say that usually guys start slow. If they do start slow, it's probably because of the speed of the game, learning of the offense, making mistakes. You can't make mistakes. It's execution based. I expect Marvin to learn it and apply it pretty quickly. I think that he'll remove any kind of rookie feel around him. I think that he understands what it takes off the field in order to perform on the field, and that's usually the curveball rookies have to figure out on their own. So I expect him to simulate pretty quickly, for the Arizona offense, and I'd be shocked if that wasn't the case early in the mid training camp into the beginning of the season.
Let me ask you a follow-up question to that, because a lot was made. We were at the combine. Marv opted not to work out. He didn't participate in the pro day. He had made it public. Like, I'm getting ready for the NFL season, the rigors of a 17-game NFL season. What do you believe his mindset truly is? It's just like, hey, I want to prepare my body. I don't want to hit a rookie wall. Like, have you ever seen anything like that? And why do you think Marv and his team and his dad came up with that mindset this year?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a different way of thinking, and I can't say it's wrong. I mean, like, for him to go into the whole process, like, what did he really expect to get out of it? I mean, like you said on it, I firmly believe this. If the first overall team didn't need a quarterback so bad in their mind, I think you'd been the first overall pick. So, I think that in their minds, in his mind, I'm not really worried about running a 40. Just turn on the film. You can see I'm the fastest guy on the field. I'm not really worried about running routes. I did that the year before for the other combine for CJ Stroud. So, he didn't know what he was trying to get accomplished. So, but what he did know was he was getting ready for rookie minicamp and he was getting ready for football this fall. And that just seemed like the best use of his time. And frankly, I don't think he's wrong. So it's just pretty, it takes a lot of guts, to kind of take that approach. And to see the way it turned out, the way it has.
He certainly earned it, right? I mean, the 2.5 years of tape that he put forth was unmatched, and he probably would have been a top receiver last year if he'd come out of Ohio State. I don't mean this in any disrespect. What are the challenges of coaching a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr.? We see the skill set, we see the size, we see the speed. What's Drew Terrell and Drew Petzing? What's going to be their biggest challenge, kind of putting this guy in action come this fall?
Well, I would say that not tooting our horns at Ohio State or myself, but just he wants challenge to be the best. And so, if you're not finding constant ways to challenge him to grow, to be better, to show your competence as a receiver coach, that's the biggest letdown. That's the biggest stress. That you should feel like letting him down, because he'll take anything you'll give him. So to me, him not becoming what he's fully capable of is me, and that it's not on him. He's putting forth the effort. If he didn't turn out or reach the goals he wanted to reach with the amount of work he put in, I would have put it on myself. So that's the stresses of it. I think understanding what he's capable of, and as a coach, your job is to maximize both the individual but also the schematic advantages you have as a player. If you don't do that, that's on you, not usually the player.
So we've made it clear on our show, Coach, like the Cardinals in the past have been, for whatever reason, allergic from taking big-time players from established universities. And then they now go back-to-back with 2 Ohio State players. And this is the most the fan base has been fired up, collectively, Paris Johnson, now Marvin Harrison Jr. How do you guys, in a program on such a dominant level, consistently in the public eye, balance winning at the collegiate level, and then also preparing these guys for the rigors of the NFL draft, the NFL career in general? Because, frankly, you go back and you look at the names, everybody, for the most part, who is expected to be a high pick is producing in some instances at a high level. Like, how do you balance that over the course of a 2 to 3 year career that has led to such an impressive hit rate for your program?
Yeah, I would say that we spend a lot of time on the makeup of the athlete and the kind of person they are. I think it's not just bringing in a certain athlete; it's also bringing in a family. So you got to make sure it works. And I think that the mental makeup, the makeup of Paris, Paris and of Marvin, I think you'll find a consistency there. I think that to me, athletically, a lot of the times, you're just checking boxes. Is he big enough, fast enough? Can he be big enough? Can he be fast enough? But the mental makeup of the athlete allows you to unlock everything he has physically. And so if you can continue to kind of go on that path, and I'm not saying it's perfect, but to couple the mental makeup of the athlete with the physical abilities, you find, the ones that can play a long time and be very productive, and it all works. I think we've done a really good job of bringing those kind of athletes into the program, and they've maximized the program that we put forth for them. And then in turn, being on the biggest stage in college football with the most fans and the most watched team in college football, the transition to the NFL is probably a little less and more seamless than it is other places.
So you mentioned that big stage. My last question for you. I remember watching the Rose Bowl 2 years ago, and you guys had fallen behind Utah. And then this kid has 3 touchdowns in Marvin Harrison Jr., I think at like 80 yards. Was that the moment? Because you guys see him in practice. He had a modest year. He's working behind a couple pros in Jackson and a couple other guys who, by the way, had a fantastic game in and of themselves. But 3 touchdowns against Utah's defense to bring you guys back in the Rose Bowl. Was that the moment you knew, like, oh, okay, this has a chance to be a generational prospect?
Yeah, that's the key right there. We got a chance. I never assume, but I was like, okay, we got a chance here. Now let's see what this becomes. And so he was going into his second year with the opportunity at hand. I'm going to see this guy's going to maximize it. Everything tells me he's going to, but until we actually do it, there's nothing to really be said. So, but I mean, there were signs before that too. Now, I mean, there was times in practice. There was times where Chris and Garrett and Jackson were like, "Hey, Hart, you see that?" I'm like, "Of course I saw that." So there's a lot of conversations behind the scenes that really allows you to understand how his brain's working and how there's a chance for a special outcome if we continue to develop the right way.
Johnny, we're looking at an AFC guy. I mean, played for the Dolphins and the Browns, but I'm looking at his most career touchdowns, and it's against the Arizona Cardinals. Brian Hartline. Brian, what the heck's going on, man? How did you have some of your best performances against the Cards?
Yeah, Cards allowed me to break the Dolphins record for the most yards in a game. And I appreciate them for that. PP over there trying to cover one side. Then we switched, went back and forth. It was one of those games, but you guys pulled it out in the end. So there was always a sour taste in my mouth. You guys were 6-0 going to that game, the best pass defense in the league. So we came in motivated, but unfortunately, we did not pull out that game. So I remember it clearly. Spent plenty of times in the Fiesta Bowl too at Ohio State, playing in that stadium, and to watch that area grow since 2006, which was a rough game. But it's been pretty awesome to be fans of you guys from afar.
Absolutely, Coach Brian Hartline. You got a good offensive coordinator you're collaborating with there, and Chip Kelly. We watched a lot of him at Oregon, of course, most recently at UCLA. Excited for what's going on with the Buckeyes. Looks like you're on the recruiting trail as well. Is that what's going on?
I am. I'm enjoying that little Delta Lounge here and in Atlanta, but I'm getting ready to catch a flight to Dallas and keep this thing moving. We have a good stretch here, about 3 or 4 weeks before Memorial Day weekend. We're on the road and just trying to go out and find those next guys we just talked about.
That's fantastic. All the success, you guys deserve it there in Columbus. You as well with the Ohio State program. Coach Brian Hartline, thank you so much for your time and the insight on the Arizona Cardinals' newest star player, Marvin Harrison Jr.
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
See you, Coach.